Girlie's in there. Girlies. There you are, girls. Hello. What you doing up there? Hey, lolly girls. Lolly dolls. Yeah.
Good morning. It is another spectacular day here. It's Friday morning. I better let the girls out first, I think, and then I've got to grab the hose and water the French beans that I planted last week because they're looking a bit dry.
Run, be free, ladies. Run, be free. Just don't jump over the fence, huh?
Currently playing the never-ending and constant game of watering. Still no rain, still not a drop of rain. It is Friday morning and I can't even remember, what was it, 2 weeks ago that we had that one little burst of rain that like I was celebrating. Little did I know that was it. That was it. We've had nothing. So yeah, basically I haven't really got a great deal done up here this week. I've just been coming up, like letting the girls out to have a bit of a mess around and just standing there with the hose. Dude, that's it, that's all I've done. But I've got a bit more to do today. I'm gonna plant some stuff out, which is risky because it's so dry. But seems I'm up here watering every day. I mean, otherwise they're just gonna really suffer in the greenhouse. And then they're gonna suffer in the greenhouse and they're gonna suffer out here. So they're probably better off suffering out here. It's just a never-ending game of suffering, isn't it? Yeah. But things are just so dry, it's unbelievable. It's just dust, everything's dust. But the beans are coming up. The beans that I've just watered there, I forgot to water them yesterday when I was up here last night, but I've just been looking, like giving them a soak. They're coming up. Let me show you. Hello, little French beans. Look at these chaps. Oh, 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 there they are. They're amazing. All of the legume kind of seedlings, they come up so quick. And they're such fleshy seedlings as well. I mean, it doesn't matter in this bed because I've only put beans in here, but somebody keeps pulling out my labels. I don't know what's going on, they just keep pulling them out. Good, I'm pleased with that. So we should get some beans. I'm gonna sow some spinach today and some spring cabbages and some kohlrabi. That's a bit late for kohlrabi, I know, but I'm just gonna have a go. Yeah, planting out, sowing seed, and intermittently hiding in the shade, and obviously watering endlessly. Filming's being a bit temperamental today because we got aeroplanes. They're doing a load of building work in the school because it's now summer holidays. Obviously we don't have the kids, which is tick, but we've got like diggers and things, and they're digging up this huge area of the school. So I don't know if they're putting a new building in there or whatnot, but the noise is brilliant for you. Sorry about that. But what I'm about to do is these. This is what we're planting out. I've got green wave mustard, fantastic. I've got 2 types of beetroot. One's the Detroit, the one that's been really, really reliable this year. And the Chogya, I've got like a bit of germination, but again, really poor germination. And this is the 3rd sowing from 2 different packets of seed, and the germination has been rubbish both times, so I don't know what's going on there. And then I've got some particularly beautiful purple pak choy to go in. And a helicopter. Brilliant. I'm going to plant the pak choy out and the green wave mustard, but it's a bit early for them. I mean, it's not too bad, but because it's still so hot, I've got a feeling they're going to bolt really quickly. So as soon as I've put these ones out, I'm just going to sow more directly into the same containers, kick them off again in case these ones just go to pot really quickly. That's my plan. I've got quite a few beds with a bit of space in them, like half beds all the way up. But I think the one I'm going to put the pak choy and the green wave mustard into is this top bed here. Just got to move those sticks. It's where I took the potatoes out of, you know, the red dukes that were in there earlier, and I mulched it so it's all ready to go. And also it's our most shaded bed that we've got, and I think if I've got any chance of stopping them bolting in this weather, probably getting them into the coolest of the beds is probably a good idea. So that's where I'm going to put them. And I'm also going to cover them with my old carrot Enviromesh box, so I think it's just going to give them a little bit of shade and stop them being dug up, because everything's just being dug up. Like when I sowed the turnips, I'm just looking at them now, when I sowed those turnips, they were obviously in straight lines. I didn't just have 2 huge gaps in one end. Somebody just comes every time you kind of disturb the soil. Badgers, foxes, the crows, everything just come along and disturb it. So if I put the Enviromesh box over them, I think they've got a better chance, because when I sowed them out last year, the crows just came along and just pulled them all out, just one by one. Nice. Thanks, chaps. So yeah, that's my plan. I'm going to give it a really big soak before I plant them in there though, so I'm just going to stick the hose on it for a while and leave it be, and then I'll plant into it. I've got a couple of direct sowing bits to do. Next to where all that chimney wrapper has come up, sorry about the dumper truck noise, that's just what we need, isn't it? Next to where the chimney wrapper's come up, where I just direct sowed it straight into the bed, I'm going to just put a load of rocket in the other side and see if we can get something to grow up in there. Yeah, good. Let me move the hose first, I think. Just got to clear away my pea canes. So I use my raspberry sticks to grow my peas up every year, and because I've got autumn fruiting raspberries, it's very simple. You just chop them all down at the end of the year and then dry them out. You don't want to chop down your raspberry canes and put them straight in the ground, because more often than not, they'll just root and start growing, which isn't ideal when you're trying to grow peas. I store all of my canes, bamboo and raspberry canes and all of that kind of thing, in the sides of my compost bins. So I've got upright pallets, and that gives you the gap between, you know, the front and the back of the pallet. Makes absolutely perfect cane storage. And storing them upright means that they dry out really well and they don't tend to rot. Whereas if you've got them kind of stacked horizontally, they tend to collect water, and that's not so good. Okay, I'm just going to balance the hose here and see if I can get some water in this bed, because it's like ash, absolute ash underneath this mulch. So I'm going to move that around a couple of times, leave it on there for about 10-15 minutes and really try and get it soaked all up this end of the bed. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to go and try and sort out the tomatoes, because they were so dry yesterday. I gave them a massive soak. I left the hose in there for a good half an hour in all the different spots, so hopefully they've taken on a bit of water, but they've got all their little branches and stuff, so I'm just going to go and kind of sort them out while I'm waiting. No, too hot. That's going to be a job for tomorrow morning. That is not acceptable heat levels. Oh, God. While I've been in the burning hot oven though, look who's arrived. She's brought up the compost from the kitchen.
Do I look fatter today?
So this is my old wibbly wobbly Enviromesh box. I used, obviously, like I normally do, just old scraps, and the top and bottom pieces are really very skinny, so I need to put in some corner pieces, but I haven't got round to it yet. So it's a bit all over the place, but it's going to be perfectly good to protect the pak choy and the mustard greens for the time being, as long as I don't break it while I'm shuffling it around. But I'm just measuring out in the bed how much of the bed it actually covers, so I know how much I can plant into and it will still be covered. So planting out the pak choy, because pak choy grows as like an individual plant, it's not so much a cut and come again kind of vegetable, unless you're growing it in kind of a salad mix or something, but that's not what I'm growing these for. I want like proper standalone pak choys. I'm going to be planting them out individually as seedlings, so they've got enough space to grow into proper sized plants. I'm going to start out, because I've got quite a lot of these seedlings, I'm going to start out planting them roughly about 10 centimetres apart, and then I will pick out some. They're not likely to grow all at the same rate, so as some get bigger I'll take them out, and then it will give the others a bit more space, or I'll pick some when they're really small for salads, like I say, and then give the rest of them a bit more space. They want to end up maybe about 15 centimetres apart, kind of minimum, because these red ones in particular, when I grew them last year, they are big meaty chaps. Like, they do get to quite a size, and I would like these ones to get to quite a size as long as they don't bolt instantly. So yeah, I'm planting the pak choy out with quite a lot of space around them, each seedling individually put in the ground. That's by contrast to the mustard greens, which I'm not necessarily that keen on them growing into perfect individual plants, but I do want them to have space to get quite large. So I'm going to split my seedlings into 2 rows, and the rows are about 12 centimetres apart, the 2 rows. Mustard greens can get quite big, but the way I tend to harvest them is, instead of picking each individual one, I'll just grow them in 2 lines and then snip them all the way across the top, and then they will regrow for a second picking. So they don't individually have to get to kind of a picking size. I'll just kind of take the whole top off and then let them regrow, so they don't need that much space. I'm giving them a bit of space between the 2 rows so that they can, they've got enough space to kind of do what they want, but it doesn't have to be pricking out each individual green wave mustard seedling and kind of placing them carefully like the pak choy. It's a little bit more kind of slap them in. Get the box down on top, and fingers crossed this provides them with a bit of shade and a bit of protection from things coming along and destroying them. I hadn't quite appreciated how much the Enviromesh actually protects, not just from the bugs. Obviously this is over my carrot bed, and I use the Enviromesh to stop the carrot root fly, but actually I've started growing the coriander under there. It just gives it a bit more protection from sort of wind and the elements, and it seems to just make really beautiful lush growth. So I'm hoping that's what it's going to do for my pak choy. Hey girlies, that's what we want, isn't it? Lush pak choy. And that swing seat, oh, I could do with that right now. Well, Mum's gone visiting. She's just up the road talking to Caroline, and I think I better make some lunch in a minute. Oh, it's been a long time since I've cooked allotment noodles for Mum, and today we are featuring some chard, some Thai basil, and some tree spinach, and then the pièce de résistance, a beauty of a courgette. She'll be very pleased with that. The the queen of allotment lunches. Let me get this in bowls. Also thrown a bit of that magnificent coriander on top. Beautiful. Lunch successfully completed. Been a long time since we've done that. So Mum is just deadheading the leucanthemum around the pond, and I'm going to be planting out some beetroot. These are the ones that I had inside the greenhouse, and they are a mixture of Detroit 6 and the Chioggia, like I was saying earlier. Considerably more of the Detroit than the Chioggia, which is a bit of a shame because the Chioggia is the one with the really fantastic white and red stripes when you chop them open. But hey ho, this is a different planting out strategy again from the pak choy and the mustard greens. So although I want each individual beetroot to be kind of an individual plant with its own beetroot on the end of it, like the pak choy, I'm going to plant them in clumps of 2s, 3s, sometimes 4s. Because when you've got kind of 3 beetroot growing together, you tend to get the dominant one starts growing its beetroot first. So you kind of get the big one and then you pick that one. Then it leaves space for the second most dominant one. Then you can take that one afterwards and then it gives space for the third one. And it kind of staggers the growth of the beetroot rather than them all becoming ready at the same time. You get a longer picking time. You don't tend to get beetroot anywhere near as big as if you planted them out individually. You know, you don't get any kind of whoppers, because if you left one to get absolutely whopping, it would basically just kill off the other two. So you do have to pick them a bit smaller. But yeah, so I'm clump planting these ones out. So there's like a clump of 3 beetroot and then there'll be, I don't know, a hand span space and then another clump of beetroot and another clump of beetroot, which just gives the dominant beetroot in that set like big enough space to grow. So that is all of them in like that, and I can show you what they look like as they're growing, because my first set that I put in I've been harvesting, so I've taken quite a few of these out. We've had about 3 pickings, but if you look down here you see there's 2 here actually which are quite even. God, these leaves, sorry. So I'm just going to fight my way in here. But these 2 are quite even actually, not really demonstrating what I want very well. But here you can see that one is the dominant one and that one is the one which will come afterwards. And I've already just picked one huge one from that patch. So yeah, whew, beetroot monologue. Next is on the end of this bed where I've got the chimida wrapper at one end, then the beetroot. I've just got this strip at the end and I'm going to broadcast some lamb's lettuce straight into the ground. So you can start lamb's lettuce off in trays or whatever. That's what I would normally do if I'm putting it into the polytunnel later in the year. But I'm just going to put it straight in here and I'm not going to sow it into rows. I'm just going to rake this whole end piece and scatter sow it across, because lamb's lettuce is a sort of a low growing, rosette forming type plant. It doesn't really do that well in rows. It's pointless for it to be in rows. Often if you're direct sowing, you do put things into rows because it makes it much more easy to identify what's the plant you're actually looking for versus just weeds coming up. But lamb's lettuce is such a distinctive seedling. I don't think there's going to be any problem with that whatsoever. So I've just roughed up the soil with my little rake, sown straight into it, and then almost rake it back over so that some of the seed kind of goes down into the soil, but don't rake dragging, because you'll just drag all the seed and you won't have an even scattering. And then just water it in. Perfecto. straight back into chopping things up?
Yep. That's all I can do.
This is the old chicory and chimidarapa stuff, you know, that I stripped the seed from the other day. Mum is just chopping it straight into bags rather than me just leaving it on the bed. It does. It does.
Animals got in there and tore it all up.
Wow, so much sowing and planting out today. These are going to be cut and come again Valmain lettuces. So Valmains do produce, you know, a tight head if you want to pick the whole lettuce. So I'm giving these loads and loads of space so that they will form a tight lettuce. But I'm going to use them generally as cut and come again. But rather than with the green wave mustard where I'm just chopping it off the top, I want to take the outside leaves of these, so they need enough space that they actually produce some good outside leaves. And also, if you plant lettuces too close together, they just become an incredible sluggy haven. So I'm trying to avoid that by planting them a bit further apart. Not that slugs are a major problem at the moment, apart from on the plastic edge of the allotment, because they just can't cross a desert. Okay, I'm going to head off now because I've got to take Annie to the vet this afternoon, but just have a look at this. You know, I showed you the beans this morning. Look how much this little chap has grown. It's incredible. I can't believe how quickly they grow. It's unbelievable. Right, better head off. So yeah, on our way back to the vet again. What they're doing does seem to be working though. He's got like a combo steroid and antibiotic at the moment, and we haven't been here for 3 weeks, which feels like a bit of a record at the moment because it was every week for a while there. So if we can get it up to once a month, that would be wonderful, Dingo. It would be wonderful, small boy. Okay, I'll update you when we're out. Okay, ignoring the fact that he's covered in sawdust, we've got a piece of old MDF lying on the floor in the kitchen, and he's decided it's the best thing ever for scratching and rolling all over. So he's covered in that, but just ignore that bit. Yeah, looking good. I don't think we're going to have to go back for another month. We're going to try and make the steroid injections regular. He's put on weight. Hey, Dingo, la paringo, pingo, pingo, dingo. Hey, sausage. Looking good. Huh? I hope you look good for a while longer, because you are one expensive Mia. You are. You're a expensive boy. Good afternoon, boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of Watering with Jessie. It's endless. It's endless. It's hot again today, right? Still no rain, not even a glimpse. Like, look at the sky. Not even a whisper of a cloud out there today. And I was just looking at the forecast, and by the end of the week, it's going to be 35 again. Still with no prospect of rain. The whole forecast is just sun, 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 sun. There's going to be a hosepipe ban soon. I'm sure of it. Yeah, so it is Sunday afternoon, and I was up here yesterday all day, but I wasn't doing anything useful. I was having a barbecue and watching the football and sort of sitting on the swing seat and dozing and having a beer in the sunshine, and it was absolutely marvellous, but not of any use to any of you. So I'm back up here today. Obviously, I didn't get any of the sowing done that I wanted to get done, or like the sowing into pots rather than direct sowing stuff on Friday. So I'm going to try and do that today. I've got a little bit of shade here next to the shed because Hoo-wee. And the swing seat is currently, because it's afternoon, it's like right in the sunshine, so it's like sitting in a padded oven. I've been trying, but yeah, I've now been defeated. I'm so sweaty. I'm now up and about and ready to do things. I suppose that is one advantage of it currently being hotter than the sun over there. I can't sit there for the next 5 hours and do nothing. So what am I sowing? On Friday, I planted out the pak choy, and I need to get some more of them in. Same with the green wave mustard, because I think they're just going to go poof almost immediately because of this ridiculous weather. On a similar vein to that, I want to get some spinach in, but I'm not going to sow very much spinach because I think the same thing is going to happen to it. But you just never know, and this would be my normal time to like sow it. So I'm going to do it anyway, but just not do an enormous amount. And I'm going to sow them into pots rather than direct sow them, because I seem to be having quite a lot of success with that actually. The basil's looking really good, dill's looking fantastic, and the fennel is just on its way up now, about this big. So tick on that front. I'm going to get some more stuff going in the greenhouse. What I wanted to do today was do some feeding, but I left the feed at home because I took it at home to feed some stuff at home, and then I forgot to bring it up with me, so that's annoying. So it's going to be a job for first thing next week. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that I'm sowing now, that I'm planning to sow now, really isn't like the wave of stuff to be sowing for winter. This is me just trying to extend the season, because I don't know what the weather's going to do. Are we going to have, like, is it still going to be hot in November? At the moment, it feels like it. But you never know. Okay, so I'm going to set myself at the table in the shade, get the sowing done first. I've actually got the hose on. I know that it's not a great time to water. It's like 2:15 in the afternoon on a burning hot day. But I've got the hose on really, really low level, so it's not like spraying everywhere. It's just like dribbling. I've got it sat in the polytunnel, just to try and do something for those poor tomatoes, because they're all in there like this. Help me. And it makes me feel terrible every time I see them. So yeah, right, sowing is the first thing. Okay, first two are going in are a green pak choy. Obviously I planted out the red pak choy earlier and I don't have any more of that, so if I'm going to sow some more, I'll have to dig through the seed box, and there's some in there just hiding, or I haven't got any. But I'm going green, and then I got some tatsoi as well. So I'm going to put them into skinny pots. Seems I've already got quite a lot of that going on. There and there. I'm going to do kohlrabi, bit of a gamble, but never mind. And I'm going to do Durham early spring cabbages. I'm actually going to do quite a few of these because this is a really good cabbage. In fact, it's a spring cabbage, so if you sow it now, you're kind of harvesting it like March, April, that sort of time. But you can also grow it, so obviously when they're going to form a proper head, you have to like plant them quite far apart, and then you get a head. Although this is a small variety, you still need to like give it the space to do what it needs to do. But you can also grow them quite tightly together and use them as spring greens rather than them actually kind of hearting up and you having a proper cabbage. You can just use the leaves. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a slightly bigger tub for them and sow a whole load. So like 6 or 8 of them I'll plant out like really carefully spaced, you know, so that they're actually going to form proper cabbages. And then the rest of them I'm just going to bung in lines, and we'll see what we get in spring for green veg. I maybe wouldn't normally do that because we've normally got the tree cabbages on the go. They kind of take care of all of the spring greens type cabbage leaves, because it's just like a pick and come again cabbage, which is sort of what this would be if you're growing them tightly together. But I took out the one, like our really big established one that was in the fruit cage earlier this year because it had kind of run its course. And the 2 that I had down here were in the bed that I moved. And so I've shunted them up into like the permanent brassica bed. And they do look like they've taken, but it was a really difficult time to try and move a permanent brassica. And I don't know how great they're going to be by spring. So I'm kind of hedging my bets a bit with these. I say I'll be sowing a lot. There's not very many seed in there. So although I'm planning to grow pak choy and tatsoi and some other kind of oriental greenery over winter, this lot actually isn't going to be for that. I think these will have ripened, they don't ripen. I think they'll be ready to pick long before they kind of do the winter thing. If this weather's anything to go by, we should be eating these. If they don't bolt, obviously, we should be eating these at the end of the summer. That's what I think anyway. Whereas, I mean, a lot of times people sow stuff in August for winter. The only thing here that I'm really growing for kind of next year is the cabbages. But everything else, I'm not quite at the growing for winter stage yet. I am going to put a bit of chicory in, and I don't know how quick that's going to grow, but I think most of my wintry stuff, or stuff that I'm going to be growing for like in the polytunnel and in the covered beds, I'm not going to sow that until September. Right, let's do the risky kohlrabi. One year I sowed the kohlrabi in, actually to be fair it was probably July, would have been July, it's August now, but nah. And they were fantastic, absolutely brilliant. The next year I did them and not a thing, just nothing. They just bolted immediately, so who knows, but worth a go. Worth a go. Who is this one? This is Delicacy Purple, so it's a purple kohlrabi. I normally grow Azure as a purple one, which you get from Real Seeds, but somebody gave these to me and I apologise. I can't remember who it was who sent them to me, but I'm very grateful and I hope they work. If not, I'll be sowing them again in the spring. Actually, I'll be sowing them again in the spring anyway, whether they work or not. Right, next up is chard. Now you might think, hey Jessie, do you not have enough chard already? But I've got the Beetroot, which is the perpetual spinach type chard, and I've got Lucullus, which is the really pale one, and then there's a couple of rhubarb ones dotted around. What I don't have is any of the Ford Hook Giant, which is the really fantastic one with the big thick white stems. Couldn't get any seed for that, so I found, where is it, White Silver 2. Gonna try that one, never tried this one before. Actually, depending on how quick this grows, and I'm not really sure what the season's going to do, but depending on how quick this grows, this could be something that goes into the covered bed over winter. It's possible. I mean, I'll be sowing them again. If this looks like it's just going to take off and we'll eat it before the end of the summer, then that's fine, and I'll sow another lot. I'm going to be sowing quite a lot of chard at the end of September, which is going to be going into the polytunnel. I'm going to get some in pots in the greenhouse, and we'll have that big covered bed again this year if the slugs don't completely destroy everything in it like they did last year. Right, last two things is the chicory. I've got the red stemmed and the green stemmed. We're eating the stuff that was self-sown, and then I've planted some more out that somebody gave me from up the way that were just some little excess seedlings. So they'll be coming along soon, and then I'll get these in. So we should have a complete succession. Woo! Okay, they are in the greenhouse. That's all of these chaps here. And then I've got purple sprouting broccoli and some cabbages there. That is the dill, some leeks, a bit sad looking, basil. Fennel's coming up, looking good. I've got some more lettuces to put out over there. But yeah, things are moving on. Hey, girlies. Lots of things. Yeah. Hey, beautiful girl. Are you so sweet? Yeah, look at those two. They're having a dust bath. I love it when they have a dust bath. They look like they've completely melted. Hey, little sausage. Yeah, I know. You're such a beautiful chicken. You are such a beautiful chicken. Yeah. Pretty girly. Huh? Pretty girly. Sweetheart. They look silly having their dust bath, don't they? I could spend hours chatting to these chickens. I'm not kidding. Oh, I do spend hours chatting to these chickens, actually. That's not an exaggeration. Hey, small girls, look at them. They really make me laugh when they're having a dust bath. Oh, and do you remember last week I showed you that goji berry that had the most beautiful little purple flowers? Well, I potted it up and it's looking pretty happy. Have a look. Have a look at this gorgeous creature. Isn't it beautiful? It's so lovely. Thanks again to Kay for giving it to me because I absolutely love it. And I might even get fruit this year. I still haven't found an actual space for it, so I just thought potting it up was the best thing to do. It's hot. It's hot. What are we going to do, girlies? Are you having a lovely time? So I still haven't sorted out the tomatoes, but you know, I said on Friday it was just too hot in there. Well, it's even hotter today, so I'm not going to do it today. I'll have to come up. She's editing. I'll be editing tomorrow morning, but I might have to come up anyway, so I might just, you know, nip up really early and give them a tidy in a water, because at this time of day it's just too hot. Next week, so I'm just thinking about whether or not I'm going to head off now or not, but next week I'm going to do a plot tour, because quite a lot of stuff is kind of coming along at the moment and things have changed a lot since last month. So I'm going to do a plot tour and then have a think about a strategy for growing over winter and have a talk about growing over winter. Because I think it's a shame that a lot of people, they come to the end of the summer and then they kind of shut their plots down or they shut their gardens down and then they just wait for spring. That's not necessary. It's not necessary. Even if you don't have any covered space or you don't have polytunnel or greenhouse, it's always things you can grow over winter. So I'm going to have a bit of a natter to you about that next week. Right, before I go, quick nose around the mulberry tree. Got to be something in there. Whoa, there's a good one. Beauty. Love them. Love them. What a fruit. Is there any more? Yeah. Yum diddly yum scrum. Totally. Okay, boys and girls, it's now about 4:30, coming up to 5 o'clock, Sunday afternoon. There is a pint of cider with my name on it waiting in the pub. I just know there is. So I think it might be time to head off. Hey, girls? They say no, it's not time to head off. We're still enjoying the dust bath. Where are they? Can you see them? You having a nice time, Whirlers? Yeah! You moulded into one, girlies. Look at that, what are you doing? Squish girls. Just standing here, like looking at things, at how dry everything is. And my phone very timely, very appropriately, is that better? Whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. In a timely nature, just sent me a picture of this day last year, and have a look at this. And I've just taken a photograph from the same spot this year. Holy moly. Wow. Well, I was just about to leave and someone showed up.
The star showed up. Got to sit on the swing.
Yeah, this is actually, this is true. This is the first swing seat experience. Yeah. So I'm just going to turn the camera around and you can hear from the horse's mouth how great it is.
I have to admit, was a wonderful find. It's absolutely fantastic. Shade from the top, legs in the sun to keep warm.
I don't think you need to worry about keeping warm right now. Cheers, chaps. It's a back garden ending today. First thing though, just have another look at those photographs, because when my camera threw that up, it was like, this day last year. I could not believe it. I happened to be standing in practically like the same spot looking up that path, and I was just like, this can't be real. Can I just leave them on the screen for a second for you to appreciate the difference? That is just crazy, isn't it? Yeah, so the crazy weather is continuing as well. If you look at the forecast, it just says there's, sorry, my chair's creaking. Yeah, it just says it's just sun forever, basically. Just forever, that's it. Never again will it rain. I've taken to going for a walk quite late at night, actually. So like about late at night, it's not like midnight stroll, but like at 9:30 after dinner, go up the hill, have a bit of a wander. It's really lovely because by then it's still hot, but it's quite like there's a bit of a breeze. It's nice, particularly if you go down by the river. It's gorgeous. Actually, I was down there last night. They had a beautiful sunset. I might end on it. I'm going to give you my sunset as the last, little bit. So it's really nice having mum back up at the plot. It's been a bit weird. I've got really used to it just being me. Like I go up there, turn the hose on, close the gate, and then that's just it. It's just me. And I keep turning around and she has appeared out of nowhere. So it's taken me a bit of time to get used to it again, but yeah, it's excellent. She's back on chopping duty and deadheading duty, and soon enough she'll be able to be on weeding duty, which will be pretty good. So next week, like I said earlier, next week's going to be a bit of a stock take. I'm going to do a bit of a plot tour, see what's going, what's not going, and what I'm planning to do going forward. So into the winter, extending the season a bit, and what I'm planning to do over winter. That's my plan for next week. I've also had a request for a Q&A, so watch out for a YouTube community post thing. I'll put one of them out with questions with a request for questions on it. It might, if I put it out, it'll probably be at the end of this week when I put it out, and then it'll be in for next week, if you see what I mean. 2 vlogs time. Yeah, but watch out for it. And that's about it, chaps. So cheers and big love to everybody. I hope you're all surviving in the heat, or wherever you are. If your weather's not as nuts as this, lucky you. And I'll see you next Tuesday, or Monday for the Monday clubbers, but Tuesday for everybody else. Cheers, chaps.